I'm speaking with the director of Beasts of the Southern Wild, which premiered yesterday to a very enthusiastic, rowdy crowd at the Eccles. Congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of Glory at Sea, and that's how I discovered you. So it's a film. Your feature film is a film that informs us. Actually, Glory at Sea informs us of select themes that are present in your feature film. And I was wondering, in the context of for cinephiles, how do you want them to perceive it in the larger context? Because it's not necessarily a short film and then an elongated version of that. It's not you made a short then it's a feature.
Yeah.
There's elements there, but so how do you want future fans of your feature film to perceive the short? Because it's much more than just like a little project where you're testing out ground. It's a great short.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I want them both to stand on their own. They're not supposed to be
interlinked.
You know, you don't need to see one to see the other. Really, I think that the Glory at Sea was the beginning of like a larger project that's going to be my life, which is telling these sort of epic folk tales drawn out of real things that are happening in the world. And these two projects were both very much about things going on in Louisiana. I think that the reason I definitely felt like when I finished Glory, I hadn't finished the project. Like I had more to say about.
There's a larger canvas there.
Yeah, there was more to say because Glory was really about loss and it was about grief and sort of about like a very specific moment. It wasn't just a movie, but it was about sort of the loss of a place, and then. When I made Glory, I was planning to just go, finish the film, come back to my life, and that didn't happen at all, and I got completely stuck in New Orleans, where I still am.
And you're a New York-based filmmaker who made the move over to New Orleans for creative purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I went there to make the movie, and then my life did not allow me to leave. I mean, I don't want to leave. So for any reason, if I never made another film, I would still be sitting on a bar stool in New Orleans watching football all day long. So, but I was really interested in why it was, because I knew I couldn't leave. Like when I finished the film, I was just like, "There's no way I'm going to leave this place," and it's can be like a very difficult place to live. I mean, I love it more than anywhere, but. Sort of like curious why it was that I wanted to stay so badly and there's such a strong sense when you're in Louisiana of people feeling like this ground there's like a sacredness to the ground and like the culture kind of like comes out from the ground and you can't leave.
It's very emblematic in your film. I mean it's anchored down that idea, that notion.
Yeah, it's about really standing by the place that made you, and like even when that's even when that's crumbling out from under your feet, even when it's inevitable that it's going to be gone, and even when it's almost impossible to survive, you can't abandon it. You have to stay. And I wanted to make a film about that. That wasn't really in the short. The short was much more about how to deal with grief, and this one is much more about how to sort of survive inevitability or something,
Is there like an ecological subtext to the film, like because
absolutely.
Hurricane Katrina, I mean, we know the reasons why it occurred. Obviously, it's big. It's part of a larger phenomenon, and I'm not sure. Did you get stock footage for the ice cap? Does that like?
Yeah, some of it is, some of it isn't.
Okay, okay. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, but Glory was centered, around like a giant storm, and this film is much more about kind of the ongoing collapse of the land in South Louisiana. It's not. This one isn't as rooted in New Orleans. It's much more about South Louisiana, and when you go to South Louisiana, you see these. I mean, you see in the film. There's these skeletal trees that are rows and rows, and those were all like huge alive oak trees like 10 years ago, and those little slivers of land used to be 10 times that size, and the island where we shot the island where we shot was like a thriving community, and it's not like that was in the 1800s, like that was in 1960, 1970. Like, it was a
decades back.
humongous community over there, and now there's like 30 people living there, and you can throw a rock across the island. You know, it's the land is within a single person's lifetime. The land is going away. You know, that. So and that's it's not as simple as like a storm. It's like a whole. It's the loss of the wetlands. It's the loss of the barrier islands. It's the salt water intruding in through canals that they're digging to run oil pipelines. The Deepwater Horizon spill is killing the fish. You know, so it's sort of like the feeling being down there is just like we are on the you know, and the setup of the film is the town exists on the wrong side of the levee. It's almost like there's a wall where people are protected in America, and South Louisiana is on the other side of that wall, and the film is about it's not a political film at all, and it's not really about issues in that kind of a way, but it's just inspired by the feeling. It's inspired by people that are tenacious enough to stand by their home despite being,
which is well represented in your chosen lead. The production start date was during a big crisis, which was the oil spill. I want to know what kind of. I mean, you had a huge production team, right? Production designers, art directors, like all like massing all this junk and all that stuff. I mean, it's great to see it in a film like that. You know what these people end up doing for a living. I mean, events like. Did it shift the production? Does it make it more immediate? Does it make it?
I mean, it was like a logistical. It was logistically
nightmare?
A crazy thing. No, it wasn't a nightmare.
Okay.
It was really interesting because it was, the booms that they put down to block the oil actually were blocking like a good third of our locations because we were shooting past that. Basically where we were shooting is you drive down to the end of the road, where the United States comes to an end, and you get in a boat, you go further. And the oil was encroaching in on the town where we were shooting. It was every day. It was like, where's the oil? It's like 6 miles off, but the wind's blowing this way, and it was getting closer the whole time. And so, to get to a lot of our locations, we actually had to negotiate with BP and get them to move the booms so we could go out past where that was to shoot a lot of this stuff. But it also was very, it just felt like. I mean, the film is about this little girl's home gets taken away, just by nature and it just gets taken away, and it actually felt like that was on the verge of happening. And thank God it hasn't been as bad as it seemed like it was going to be. But there was a day when we went out to shoot a scene about all the fish dying, and it's like the community in the film is living off the water. They're sort of pulling their food straight out of the water onto the table, and there's a scene in the film about them trying to fish, and all the fish are dead. And as we were like going out to shoot the scene, there was all our boat drivers were just like stone faced, and we were like, "What's going on, guys?" And they were like, "They just told us there could be no fishing here for 10 years."
Wow.
Which is, I don't know what that would even be comparable to. It's like if you were to,
be stuck in jail
lived in a Stella plant and it was like beer no longer exists. It's like, okay,
what do you do next?
And so it just had this sort of reality. There was like a reality to the threat that this place could be gone, and the place where we shot is really the last. I drove down when I was location scouting. There's about 5 or 6 bayous that go down from below New Orleans that split off of Houma down to the bottom. And I drove down to the end of every one, and this was the only one where when you get to the very end, there's still a vibrant community that exists there. Almost every other one used to be and is now oil worker hotel, or something like that.
The notion of bathtub, is that a term that you coined in the film, or is this I'm unfamiliar with it.
I don't know whether I don't know. There's a few things that I don't exactly remember where I got, but I didn't make that up. That was somebody told me, like, yeah, we live in the bathtub, because, and basically the reason they call it that is because they have these terrible, the island that inspired a lot of the film is called Ile de Jean Charles, and it's what I was talking about, this island that used to be this vibrant place that you have to take this single lane 3-mile road out to it, and there's a levee system that's been built to protect this region, but they left the island out of the levee, and so it's just sitting there unprotected. And every storm that comes through, they get decimated.
Hammered, yeah.
You know, but they have this like ridiculous. They have this sort of 4-foot, 5-foot levee in some places that aren't behind a real levee, where they sort of built like a.
So it just topples over.
It doesn't topple over. It's even worse, because what happens is it floods. The water backs up against the real levee, floods the town that's not on the side of the real levee, and then the internal levee actually holds the water in the town and doesn't allow it to leave. And so when there's a storm, you know, the places that somebody decided were worth giving a proper levee to will be dry, and other places will just have to manage festering with water, you know, stagnant water sitting there for weeks and weeks. And you know, that sort of water logistics is incorporated into the film as well, where in the story there's a storm. And
can you go back to the source material? Is a childhood friend of yours? How did you like? It's based on a stage play, like what elements did you pick off from that, and then like how did you incorporate both of that with obviously the magical element with the realism element? How did all that, like the stirring pot for that, how did that occur?
It was you know, like the sort of what I was just telling you was sort of where I was looking for a story after I finished my short. And Lucy Alibar has this, she's one of my oldest friends, and she has this play called Juicy and Delicious that's about a little boy whose father comes down with a mysterious fatal disease, and in this very kind of magical, biblical, epic way, the entire universe starts to come apart, and animals rise from the grave, and you know, it's sort of all the feelings that she has as her father gets sick get projected into like these epic catastrophes. And as I was thinking about sort of what it was about, why people stay, you know, like why it's worth staying, the connection between that and having a parent, like it's like the land is makes you in the same way that a parent makes you, and the process of losing a parent and the process of losing your place have like a incredible connection. I thought it was a way to understand,
which is brilliantly executed in this film. That's one of the great points about your
but you know, she actually it wasn't just based on the play. She co-wrote the screenplay with me as well. So we collaborated, you know, on every element of it.
Yeah, whenever I go to film festivals, I always hear this is like, oh, the child actresses are amazing and all this stuff, and I'm always rolling my eyes. But this is sincerely one of the first times where, I mean, she's a monster. She's just absolutely great. Don't necessarily tell me how you found her, because it resembles a lot of stories. Huge casting process involved, but the coaching process, and I noticed that one of the coaching, the acting coach, somebody that's in the Safdie film. So I was curious about how she came on board, and how was that worked out? How did you create this world for her?
Well, let me start with Eleanor, who helped out as an acting coach, which was basically just, we got close to production, and you know, the cast is huge. There's 10 people. None of them are professional actors.
Yeah, all non-professionals.
Yeah, and so Eleanor really came on to just kind of help. You know, everybody sort of needs a lot of you need to sculpt like everything that's going on in a lot of different people, and so Eleanor was there to help. You know, and she was there to sort of share some of her methods and how she goes about acting. You know, and so she was there to help in those ways.
She's particularly good when it comes to, like, you know, very vivid.
We wanted completely realistic, naturalistic performances, even though the film has this fantastical element. So, you know, I loved her work, and we sort of knew her peripherally, and I just thought it'd be cool, for me to see how she does what she does, and for these people who, you know, largely weren't even, I mean, some of them weren't even interested in acting. We just asked them, please do this, and just to see how she went about it was really helpful for them. And as far as Mezey goes, Quvenzhane, who's the star, she actually had almost more than anyone, she really understood she has an amazing sort of internal strength and wisdom, and she can be a kid, especially around other kids. Like, she'll be a kid, but then when you take her aside, you can absolutely talk to her like an adult, and she'll just like really listen to you and understand what you're saying. And if she doesn't understand, she's like, you know, I tell her something, you know, Mezey, can you do that a little more subtly? And she'll be like, Ben, I am 6 years old. I don't know what subtly means. Can you give me a different word?
Wow.
It's like she talks to you like
Wow.
that. And I remember the day when I knew we had a crisis where she was sort of freezing up in rehearsals and we didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting cold feet about casting her. And we had this conversation where I said, Mezey, you know, what's wrong? And she was like, I don't know. She's like, some days, like, you tell me what to do and I can just snap it. And then today, I just can't snap it. I don't know what it is. And the fact that she could grasp, like,
and verbalize.
I'm getting it. Like, that she knew what good was, that she could feel that, was the moment that I knew it wasn't like I have to push her. It'd be like she would know when she didn't do it good enough.
You give her a little bit and she takes the lead.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and she is that strong person, you know.
And she has a double performance because I thought she was particularly good with the narration, which is something that we see in the previous short.
Yeah.
Perhaps talk about that. How is that process like? Does she get into the character's head when she's speaking this out?
I mean, she just is. It's funny because she's not the character at all in real life, but she just knows the character. Like, she knows who she is, and she can. And
she's from the region, so
yeah.
she gets a sense of.
Yeah,
a lot of the things that are going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. I feel like it's just more that she somehow has this strong, wise person in her, and she knows how to turn it on. And when I tell her, like, do it like Hush Puppy, she just gets strong and she gets wise, and it comes out right. And a lot of the dialogue and narration was stuff that she said on her own. You know, like I would interview her and be like, tell me about the end of the world. What happens at the end of the world? And she would, you know, just go off and sort of say what her imagination of that was. And
it reminded me a lot of Malik's Days of Heaven.
Yeah, that's definitely like a huge inspiration. I feel like that sort of, you know, I think that movie and his other movies too, like, have that tool of being able to kind of like look inside a character's head and sort of expand the way that they're understanding a moment, and not in a way that is sort of dictating the plot or, like, you know, giving you the emotion or whatever it is. It's actually just sort of like a window into the character's head, and I love that. We needed that for her, because so much of the movie is about the way that she understands the universe and death and courage and all these huge concepts, and the way that she puts that together was essential. And so, you know, it was very much like from the very beginning. It was we knew that her character was going to come out in the narration.
That's great. And I talk about this is workshopped at the Sundance Institute.
Yeah.
I believe both workshops, right? You did the
screenwriters, directors, and our producers were actually in the producing lab as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we were like,
how does that inform? How does, like, the director's lab inform your I mean, you use a little bit of green screen, from what I understand, in this film.
Yeah, a little bit.
So there's, like, fantastical elements that are like. I was thinking of Take Shelter, actually, like last year's small indie film that had a studio presence, if you will, inside that film. I mean, I don't know how much it costs. I don't want to know how much it costs, because whatever it was is like you'd multiply by 10. So so does the director's lab, did that inform you on some of those, like?
It's not. It definitely isn't a technical. It's not a technical. Education or whatever like that. It's really the labs are very, very focused on you understanding your story and you understanding, like, the core emotion and feeling that you're trying to get through, and every choice that you make as a writer and as a director, everything. They make you bring everything back to, like, why are you having the actor cross the room this way instead of that way?
Okay.
Like, where does that decision come from? And if it's just an aesthetic decision, it's not it's not good enough. You have to, like, justify why you're doing what you're doing, and Yeah, and it really helped. This script showed up at the labs as this like sprawling mess of ideas, and they really helped us to hone it down and figure out where the heart of it was and what it was we were actually interested in saying. You know, because you get lost in your ideas, and they really teach you to sort of focus on what actually made you want to write or direct the film in the first place.
Well, it's a film with tremendous exploding amounts of heart, and I think it really is gonna stick out not only at this fest but later down the road and later in the year. So best of luck to you with the film, and congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.